Good evening. Welcome to this live broadcast of the 2021 presidential debates. To the millions that are watching and listening across the country, we thank you for joining us. Listening on Radio Phoenix, Hot FM, QFM, Radio Luswepo, Radio Liseli, Breeze FM, Luapula Radio, Radio Mano, Radio Ichengelo, Radio Chikuni, Mosio Tunya Radio, Kokoliko FM, Radio Chikaya, Radio Banguela, KNC Radio, and Kasempa Radio. Diamond TV, Movie Television, Spring TV, CBC, KBN TV, Live TV, Musanza TV, ABN TV, Power TV, Crown TV, and Northwest TV. You are indeed welcome to this live broadcast. Online, we're streaming on the Nkani page as well as on Facebook at Diamond TV Zambia. After presenting you with the first set of the 16 presidential candidates in the 2021 elections yesterday, we tonight bring you who will debate ideas and battle it out with the best possible answers and solutions to Zambia's problems. Before I introduce the discussant, allow me to introduce Mr. Peter Zimba, who is on sign language interpretation tonight. We also want to state clearly and distinctively so tonight that invitations by the organizers were sent to all 16 candidates and their media teams. However, tonight we unfortunately will not have the Patriotic Front and the UPND, who have all given reasons as to why they cannot be here tonight. State House indicated through their press office stating that the communication channels used by the organizers were not official, while the UPND have attributed their lack of availability constraints in getting back off their campaign trail. With that said, welcome to the candidates. Candidates, you will be expected tonight to follow all the rules, and these are as follows. Each one of you will be allocated 1 minute and 30 seconds in which to raise critical points and issues out of sectors that we debate tonight. At the end of this 1 minute and 30 seconds in each thematic area, and guided by myself as moderator, will be collectively in which you are allowed to rebut, but this also must be done in a guided fashion. Candidates will be stopped once the time is up. Time limit statements, answers, rebuttals and responses will be enforced by myself in this debate. As moderator, I may interrupt any candidate if we believe that they are straying off the subject matter. Candidates may not interrupt one another. It is the responsibility and the discretion of I as moderator to do so. Be reminded that profanity, hate speech and character assassination will not, and I underline, will not be allowed, and if this continues, may lead to disqualification of any candidate on this debate. I believe that those rules. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the have on Operation Party ticket, presidential candidate Stephen Nyirenda. A pleasure to have you on this discussion. Welcome and good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Representing the People's Alliance for Change is their presidential candidate, Mr. Ford Mayele Banda. It's a pleasure to host you. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
I'm sure all can see via television that we're expected to have the Socialist Party candidate, Dr. Fred Membe, who, according to the information reaching us, was equally making his way to the venue at the time of broadcast, and we hope that he will join us as the debate goes on. But this being a live broadcast, time cannot wait for anybody. So we'll skip the Socialist Party and go straight to the Patriots for Economic Progress, represented by their candidate, Mr. Sean Enoch Tembo. A pleasure to host you and good evening.
Good evening.
Next to the PEP is the Democratic Party President and candidate, Mr. Harry Kalaba. Welcome and good evening.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
The New Heritage Party are represented by Chishala Kateka, and she hates to be introduced as the only female candidate in this race, so we'll just say, Madam President and candidate, welcome to this debate.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
And completing the bill for tonight is Dr. Nervous Mumba under the New Hope Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD. Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure that we are hosting you tonight.
Thank you, Costa, and thank you, viewers, for having me.
As explained, we have 4 thematic areas, and at the end of it all, each one of you will be given an opportunity to make a final appeal to 7 million Zambians as to why on August 12 they should be casting their vote for your party and your presidency. Our first theme of discussion is the economy. This will look at the high cost of living and the cost of commodities for Zambians. It will also tackle economic indicators and finally attribute to aspects of the backbone of our economy, and that is mining. But before we get to do that, allow me to take you to the screen as we take you to Lusaka's John Lane compound and hear how one family there expresses how they are managing in these harsh economic times.
Nine Dorothy Mwale, ninkala muno mwa John Lenge, pa nyumba ni patu. Nilina bana 5 na bazukulu 2, tinkala 7. Koma kankalidwe kavuta vintu vadula. Kudya kudala tenzo using asset kwacha. Mabanzi tagulamo, turepu tagulamo, na kapamera. Manje madezi ano, using a 50 kwacha, nayo 50 kwacha yo si kwanila. Timagulamo bread, sugar, tigulemo na kapamera, okenga tikulibeka pamera, timagulamo turepu so chabi. Tuma business tuamene tichita, palibeta mene tichita. So, mwaona kuchoka kuseni, sinagulisepu. So, pano nilinkare na njara.
Those voices coming from Lusaka's John Lane compound depicting the current economic scenario. Candidates, with the cost of living at the moment being high, be reminded that inflation currently stands at 24.6% according to statistics given by the Zambia Statistics Agency as of June 2021. The food basket for a family of 5 in Lusaka by the JCTR now stands at 8,500 kwacha, while the minimum wage stands at just around 1,200. Zambia's external debt, according to the World Bank, is at now 12 billion United States dollars. The big question, what have you planned as the best possible turnaround solutions to put food on the table of the Zambian citizenry? Remember that you each have 1 minute 30 seconds to discuss this subject matter. The timer in front of you there will go green at starting, it will go amber at 1 minute, and red at the completion of the 1 minute 30 seconds, and you'll be told to stop. We start with NAREP's Stephen Nyirenda. The economy. What is the NAREP perspective, and how do you think you can turn around our economy? Your 1 minute 30 seconds starts now.
First of all, I want to start with Zambians for Zambians, and only us Zambians will develop this country. First of all, we need to understand the problem because we're unsorted before we can sort it. If you don't understand the problem, you'll not be able to sort it out. Now, I want each one of us in here to check yourself from your foot up there, what you are putting on, what you are seeing, whether any of those things are produced in this country. Who is controlling the mines in this country? Who is controlling all these big things that you are seeing? Who is controlling our tourism? Who is controlling our agriculture sector? Who is controlling the seed that we plant? Who is controlling our curriculum that we use in schools? Now, the question is, it's a foreigner. As long as all these things that I'm talking about is a foreigner, that means us, we are just like pawns on a chessboard being played around. We don't own anything. We don't control the economy. As long as we don't control the economy, then we are lost. I am saying that give the economy to the Zambians. Let the Zambians own their own economy. The industries that we are having, the decision making, every industry, every capital that you are seeing has got a home. And the home is not Zambia. The home is that makes decisions. They make decisions of how things should move. Decisions are made in America. They are made in South Africa. I'll finish it later. Thank you.
People's Alliance for Change, your question on the economy. You are promising jobs, land, and empowerment. Your 1 minute 30 seconds starts now.
I think our manifesto is quite clear. It's got 7 pillars. That is land redistribution, empowerment of small businesses, creating policies that would spark job creation, invest in the agriculture sector, stabilize the mining and business sector. We're also looking at fighting corruption and ensuring that we prudently manage our debt, because the challenges that we are facing in this country are around those 7 things. First of all, once we redistribute the land, we can empower many more people to venture into the agriculture sector and open markets outside this country. We are surrounded by a population of over 200 million people in 8 countries. We have never taken advantage of this population. So what we want to do is that we want to take advantage of the potential in the agriculture sector. And once we empower as many people as possible to venture in the agriculture sector, we are going to ensure that, we open markets in the DRC, we open markets in the Congo, in Angola and other places. Then we can create jobs through empowerment. We can actually achieve this by fighting corruption, because no good idea can flourish without fighting corruption, because we have seen that corruption has been at the center stage of many good ideas. So once we ensure that we fight corruption, all these ideas are going to be implemented, then people like that lady in John Lengi can have a chance to have a small farm and be able to export chickens to places
so much,
like the Congo.
Wanda.
Thank you.
Your 1 minute 30 seconds is up. Sean Tembo and the PEP, you say you are patriots for the economy. It's at its knees and Zambians are looking for a solution. Do you have that solution?
Thank you, Costa. From our point of view, the issue of a high cost of living is actually a symptom of the main problem. The main problem is the fact that our economy as a nation has actually shrunk significantly over the past 10 years. In 2011, when the Patriotic Front government took over, the GDP of Zambia, which is a measure of the size of the economy, was about $28 billion. As we speak right now, when you look at the official Ministry of Finance report for 2020, the size of our GDP is only about $19 billion. So essentially what that means is that our economy has reduced from this size to this size. And yet when you look at our population in 2011 was about 13 million. Right now we are about 18 million. So it's like you reduce the size of the port, which is used to serve food to 10 people, and yet it is now serving food to 15 people. Obviously, those people are going to be hungry. So our approach to resolving the issue of the high cost of living is to grow the economy. And we are going to grow the economy by ensuring that we put the right policies in place which will facilitate private sector growth. Because we believe that the economy is best placed to grow when it is in the hands of the private sector as opposed to when it is in the hands of the government. And we are going to implement a number of policies to that effect.
Your 1 minute 30 seconds is up. Let's quickly get to the Democratic Party and candidate Harry Calabar. Is that key going to unlock Zambia's economic potential?
Definitely. The key is unlocking Zambia's potential. And lucky is Dorothy Mwale. She's lucky because a party like the DP is now standing in this election. For us as the DP, 5 major things will have to be looked at if the economy has to move to the next trajectory. 1, we have to fight corruption. Corruption will be an unbailable offense. so that people can begin respecting public property. 2, we are going to depoliticize the civil service so that man-hours that are being lost as a result of party politics can go back in growing the economy. 3, we are going to restore confidence in the economy by ensuring that leaders begin getting respected, not only domestically, but also beyond our borders. 4, we have said we are going to stop this business of having 20% being given to Zambians and 80% being given to outsiders. We are giving Zambians an opportunity, creating billionaires in this country, because that is imperative. And 5, we have said we are going to ensure that we promote the SMEs so that they can sustain the economy like we have seen in the 5 Asian economies.
Thank you so much. You've spoken within your 1 minute, 30 seconds. I'm sure we'll get more in the rebuttal. Shalakateka is the candidate, obviously, on the New Heritage Party ticket. Your economic turnaround solutions in 1 minute 30.
Thank you very much. Our objective in this area is to unlock the economic potential of the nation, whilst making Zambian citizens the main beneficiaries of Zambia's economic wealth. We are seeking to look at improving the currency performance. We are seeking to achieve an economic growth rate of at least 6%. It won't be achieved on day one, but we'll make a start with that. And then number 3 is addressing the high cost of living that is in the economic areas. Now, one of the issues that has actually affected our foreign exchange is this debt overhang that we've been talking about, so that has to be dealt with. We are spending 40% of our revenue just to repay that debt, and that is taking a toll on our foreign exchange issues. We need to deal with this in the shortest possible time, and we need to beef up our revenues so that we are able to do that. We are looking at kickstarting the economy through two major sectors, that is agriculture and mining, because mining has proved quite resilient even in this COVID time.
Heritage, your 1 minute 30 seconds is up. We go to the New Hope MMD very quickly. What new thing can the MMD bring to this economy?
Thank you so much, Costa. First of all, the vision of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy is that the economy of our country and many other sectors of the country are going the wrong direction. The first place to start is to start afresh. And our position is that we first have to put the railroad in place before we put the train of the economy in terms of agriculture, tourism, things we have done before as the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. We believe 3 things need to be put in order. Our first point in our manifesto as the New Hope MMD is to first of all bring order to this country. What do I mean by that? We need order in the social sector of our country. We need order in the economic sector of our country. We need order in the political sector of our country. It's only when we bring order back to this country, because most of the things happening today, the suffering of our economy is because of the confusion that exists in this country. Corruption has gone to very high levels, because where there is confusion, corruption thrives. So our goal as the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy is to ensure we fight corruption to the hilt and ensure that we deal with the issue of the debt, something we have done before and succeeded when I was in office also as Vice President. We can do it again, and the Zambians must be ready to stand with us to achieve this once again.
Thank you so much. So candidates, you've all had a bite at the economy question, and obviously your 1 minute 30 seconds. By a show of hands, you're allowed to either amplify or disagree with what somebody on the podium has said respectfully. But as we do that, the serious question, and I feel that we have not spoken to the Zambians tonight, the cost of a bag of millimil, the cost of cooking oil, the cost of basic commodities. Even if you're elected as president come August, debt will still be at your door. So they're asking, we know the problem, how are you going to sort it? Let's quickly begin with PEP in 30 seconds.
Thank you, Costa. Yes, so earlier on I did elaborate on the fact that we need to grow the economy, because when you grow the economy, the trickle-down effect is that everybody is able to have their welfare uplifted. And when you grow the economy, it basically means that you have more jobs available to people who are looking for jobs. There will be more demand for goods and services. If you look at the complaint that was being made by the lady in John Neng there, she says that she's been selling fish and nobody bought anything since morning. The reason for that is that the people do not have the purchasing power. And the only way that people can have purchasing power, people can be able to buy something when they see it, is when they have can only have an income if the economy is growing. So we are going to grow the economy through two main sectors, which is tourism and agriculture.
Let's hear from the DP before we come to PAC.
Look, I think to answer the issues that Dorothy Mwale has raised, the Democratic Party has realized that today, Costa, you are buying a bottle of cooking oil, which you are buying just a few years ago. You are buying at 5 kwacha. Today you are buying at 46 kwacha. Why? Because you are growing sunflower, and yet your cooking oil is being produced in Tanzania. It's being produced in Malawi. The DP is saying we are going to begin doing value addition right here in Zambia. You are talking about the issue of even soap. I mean, today soap is costing 20 kwacha a bar of Ibu soap or Protex soap. It's 20 kwacha. People now can't even use bathing soap for bathing. They're using washing soap for bathing because the economy can't allow.
So are you saying then that what NAREP is saying, that Zambia should be for Zambians, is what you're equally promoting? As
look, I mean, that should be the basic principle of any governance. Even when I was Foreign Affairs Minister, the interest of a country in international relations has to be, first of all, its own interests. And therefore, that's why we in the DP believe that even when we go to the international community, we first of all have to go and extrapolate our own interests, and then we can now begin dealing with others. So for the DP, Costa, for the DP, we believe that we can only bring down the cost of living in the manner Dorothy wants it to be, by ensuring that we begin believing in our own natural resources. Once we do that, begin value adding using the captains of industry, Zambia's economic trajectory will go to another level.
I'll come to PAC, the NAREP. So the question why I asked is, if all of you believe that Zambia should be for Zambians, the economy needs to be run in the private hands, why do we have 16 candidates? Why, if you're speaking the same thing? Or then, why do you feel each one of you have a better solution than the other? PAC, before we go to NAREP.
I think the question lies in the how. What we need to do is to make sure that, first of all, we break a system that supports a few individuals and come up with a system that supports the majority. We can talk about owning the economy to the local people, but if we don't put systems in place to empower the local people, we're not going to achieve that. Right now, we can see that, if you look around this country, every corner you find foreigners are making blocks because we have not created empowerment platforms for our people. When you go to City Market, to Kasumba Lesa, the people that are selling tomatoes and chickens are foreigners because there's no empowerment platforms for our people, because we have promoted a system that supports a few individuals. That's why we are talking about land redistribution, because once we redistribute the land, we can empower as many people as possible to venture into various agro projects, and by doing that, we'll be able to raise more revenue, we'll be able to ensure that we produce more, and we'll be able to ensure that as many Zambians as, we'll be able to make sure that we reduce the cost of living.
NAREP?
And I still want to go back where I'm saying we need to understand the problem. Us as leaders, the executive and its government, the duty is not to be the game changer on the floor. We should make policies. We make policies which should facilitate the private sector. And it's in those policies that we have to look at. Zambia has got no creative and innovation policy. That's why you see that Zambians cannot produce their own stuff. Even if the bridge has been made for them, it will take 100 years until somebody dies there. So we don't promote innovation. Ourselves, we are saying, first of all, we have to promote innovation by making sure that we have got the social productive institutions, that we have the productive technologies, that the money market is easier for the Zambians to be able and borrow. If these things are there, the social, first of all, it will rekindle the people, the human resource. I think, let me finish.
Very quickly.
When you go to technologies, it's the technologies that will make sure that the entrepreneurship, that those people that are creative are able to manufacture goods. Then the money market, I cannot borrow money at 40%.
Unfortunately, I'll need to cut you there for me to accommodate a New Heritage Party. New Heritage Party, do you agree with what is being said? How do we kickstart this? We've got a debt problem as a country. Let's not run away from that. Come August 12, some of these things that you're saying may not be workable until we pay back the debt.
Yes, that's why I mentioned the fact that this debt has affected our foreign exchange rate. I hear what I think what you would like to hear is how we deal with Madame's problem there, the immediate things that will bring the prices down. Unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. It takes a shorter time to break down an economy, and it takes a longer time to build it up. And there are certain things that need to be done. This debt issue will not go away in a day or a week or something like that. However, we can work on it because it will go a long way towards helping to reduce the foreign exchange rate, which has contributed largely to a lot of, the prices being high. Because for a person who's earning in kwacha, where they were paying 10 kwacha before, and now the rate is at 23. I know it's gone down by like 4 points, but the rate has gone to 23. It means for them, they are paying more than double which is the issue that is being faced there. So this issue of addressing the exchange rate is quite key, and one of them is the debt overhang. I won't go into detail because you cut me short. The second thing that we should be looking at is the fact that we are importing so many things when which cost us dollars, when we are not generating adequate foreign exchange, so that the rate keeps going up. And we do need to address that issue.
Let me go to MMD. Within a minute, you can summarize on the issues of the economy.
Well, first of all, Costa, you have heard from the contributions of my colleagues here that almost all, in fact, all of them are brilliant ideas. The civil service of Zambia has some of the most brilliant people that we can ever look for. They're working in foreign governments. Zambia is one of the richest nations on the continent of Africa. The question is, with all these good ideas, Zambia is still in the very same desperate, deplorable state. So we need to start changing the conversation from I'm going to do this in agriculture, I'll do this. It's not agriculture necessarily which is the problem. There are three problems we have. Number one, we need to insist on what makes a country. We need to shift from what doesn't work to what works. How do we make the shift? We must insist on working with systems and the institutions that can be credible, that they can hold these great ideas. Number two, we have to have men and women of integrity charged with a responsibility to govern this country. If we don't have good people and you have corrupt people with good ideas and good institutions, Zambia will continue to go down. When we were in government, President Mwanawasa as president, we recognized two things: that we can never grow the economy if the corruption levels were high. Because just in the last report from FIC, they told us 10 billion kwacha was lost last year from corruption. We want to ensure that we move that money back into the economy by having a zero tolerance to corruption. And our position as MMD, you are caught with corruption, 30 years in prison. We'll have a special prison for you there for the corrupt people so that you can have your own society. And finally,
Thank you so much, Reverend. for that. Your 1 minute is up. Just for those that are following us online, the hashtag that you can tweet on and interact with us tonight is hashtag the Zambian vote. And obviously this is the 2021 presidential debates. Before we move on to our second thematic area that looks at health and obviously the dreadful COVID-19 pandemic, candidates for this one will just give you a minute to quickly bite at one critical issue of how the economy can be sorted, but also how Zambia can begin to earn, money. God has blessed us with copper, gold, and so many resources. But Zambians feel that we're not getting the best out of this. Mining, issues of ownership, taxation, and value addition have been thorny. Again, let's begin this side with MMD. In a minute with that timer, how do you tend to look at the mining? In a minute.
Well, I think that when we were in government, we had great ideas in terms of how we drew up our development agreements with investors. We are living in a global community. My Pan-Africanism dictates that this mining industry must be able to go back to the African or to the Zambian person. However, in the global community, mining is a global phenomenon. And therefore, our commitment is to ensure that in the way we draw our development agreements, we make sure that Zambia benefits and the citizens of our country benefit more than those who come to this country. And we think that we need to empower the locals to be given the finances and the support that they need in order to participate in the mining industry. We have done that before and we are going to do it again, only that this time we are going to do it much better. Put it in the hands of Zambians and support the Zambians, because we are the most experienced in the mining industry on this continent, and there's no reason we should not.
Thank you for that. The New Heritage Party mining. How do we transform mining in terms of ownership, taxation, as well as value addition?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to cheat a little bit and ride on what President Mumba said there, because I agree with what he said, so I can add a little bit more. So I agree with that. When we look at our mining sector, we have the best opportunity at this time with, to take advantage of this sector with the high price of copper. However, when we get into arrangements or agreements with mining houses, we seem to fall apart as Zambians in that we don't have a stand, we don't have set rules and standards, and because of that we lose out and sign away our country. So we are talking about putting the right people in the right place in leadership, and who read, so that when we get into these agreements, we do what is the best for the country. In addition to that, we do need to deal with the VAT
so much.
situation.
Your 1 minute is up. I'll quickly move to the Democratic Party mining.
Costa, this story of putting the right people in the right place and then mining, those are theories. I think, look, between the period 2014 and 2019, just in cobalt alone, Zambia lost about $680 million. Between the period 2015 and 2019, just in copper alone, because of underpricing, Zambia lost about $4.3 billion alone. If we had a system the way Dr. Kaunda had in mining, where you had a body like Memako, where all exports are being placed in check, all these financial seepages would not be there, and the mining sector would take Zambia where it ought to be.
Thank you so much. PEP.
Well, if the Zambian people are gracious enough to elect me their president, there are 4 critical reforms that I will implement in the mining sector. I generally feel that the mining sector is very critical, and we as a nation are supposed to be benefiting from the sector. And so the first reform that I will implement is ensuring that we are able to collect the right amount of tax from the mining sector. And that is because over the passage of time, the amount of tax that we have been collecting from the mining sector has been shrinking despite the expansion in the mining sector. So tax collection, number 1. Number 2, I will ensure that the mining houses are compelled to remit the gross remittances of their mineral sales. back to Zambian bank accounts so that the dollar-kwacha exchange rate can be elevated. Number 3, I will ensure that the mines are compelled to hire Zambian professionals in senior positions. And number 4, of course, Costa, if you allow me, I will ensure that the mines are compelled to buy from Zambian businesses, because many a time you find mines have even shifted their procurement centers to South Africa, to
Thank
India.
you so much.
I'll change all of that.
Pack, your 1 minute.
I think what we need to understand is that every country needs investors, and as a country we also need investors in the mining sector, in as much as we want our own people to own the mines. If we have Zambians that are capable and have got enough resource to invest in the mining sector, that is welcome. But if we don't have, I think the most sustainable solution is for us to come to the country, to come and invest in the mining sector. And unlike what we're seeing today, right now the government is running 2 mines. That's unsustainable. Then we need to look at small-scale miners. Every time in places like Luansha, Chingola, young people are dying because of no solutions to small-scale mining. The people that actually are running for office, some of these people are the ones that are running those small-scale minings where there is zero safety measures. So we need to empower small-scale miners so that they can have equipment. We need to empower them with skills. We need to ensure that they have the resource that they need to mine, and they can grow and run big mines in the future.
When I hear my colleagues, we all agree that Zambia has got no policies to maintain and run the mines. We don't have policies that will put us in the right places when we are discussing with those who want to work with us. So what we are going to do ourselves, the first perhaps 5 years, we'll make sure we extract as much money as we can, which we are going to push in the agricultural sector. And then the mines, first of all, put them down. Until that time, that we are able to put policies that are going to benefit the Zambians. That is the way to go. Because if you look at what is happening now, everything is benefiting a foreigner. It does not benefit Zambians. They are cheating us, they are getting gold, taking it outside, the money is paid down outside there. It doesn't come to us at all. We are just living in slavery, working for them whilst other people are enjoying outside. We've seen the videos from India, the videos from Europe.
Thank you so much, candidates. That wraps up Thank you so much for your candid when you need to rebuttal and disagree. Before we get to our second, thematic area, we need to re-emphasize, for the sake of this live broadcast, a little late, that all candidates, like we said earlier on, were invited. So those that have not made it have given positions. We're expected to have Dr. Fred, member of the Socialist Party, rather running late. Remember, it's hashtag Zambian Vote. You can tweet and obviously interact with us. We get straight to the second theme of discussion. This looks at health and obviously the dreaded COVID-19. Again, before we get to delve into this into detail, let's go to Lusaka's Matero and particular level 1 hospital and hear what the citizens have to say.
Zinanga ne Wetson Mwanza ne nabora hospital boro chekna koma problems ya STI. Yeah, manko araba nasako batenangu ati nigure pharmacy. Yeah,
hapa nachokera pa Matero clinic ina problem ya mwana adwala sugar disease. So nachokera mu shop mu kucheka ko kopimira, because mu hospital woni katwina ngo tubalibe tuma testing wati. So ndipo nachoka kulema mukati mwameno, because the more time ngabalibe vinango mametio kai balibe vina boys mukati. That's why it's not of pull out, but it will be expensive.
So Zambia's health sector delivery candidate is not at its best. Hospitals and clinics are dealing with drug shortages, as you can see. Analysts describe this scenario due to debt owed to suppliers of medicines. How is this impacting Zambia's healthcare? Now, coupled with this is COVID-19. Currently, as of the latest statistics, 3,400 lives have been lost in this country. Over 157,000 have been fully vaccinated. That doesn't account for even over 3% of our population. The question: how would your government, if elected into office, prepare for such occurrences, and what is Zambia's future under your party in terms of fighting COVID-19? This time around, let's go ladies first. In 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Sorry, was the first question health? Don't count.
We're discussing health and the COVID-19.
COVID-19, may I start with the COVID-19?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I've just recovered from COVID-19. I lost a whole month to COVID-19, so I do not underestimate the gravity of this. But when we look at the overall situation, those deaths that we are talking about, you are safe. Those those deaths that we are talking about is actually 0.017 of the deaths, and we should not overlook the importance of the deaths from, like malaria, which is what we've always had. So we need to treat COVID with the importance it deserves and follow the protocols, but we must not let it get out of hand. We must be balanced. When we look at our health system, at the New Heritage, we are saying that a healthy immune system should be our first line of defense. So we should be looking at even the food we eat and our lifestyles and things like that. So under our party, we are saying priority access to the health system should be designed to build a healthy country rather than a system used to treat citizens. So we shall work towards an equitable access by all Zambians, and we shall ensure that health facilities are well resourced and locally accessible by our communities. Thank you.
The Democratic Party, health and obviously the COVID-19 response. If given the mandate by Zambians, how would you approach COVID?
Of course, we are supremely confident that Zambians will give us the opportunity next week. Look, I think first it starts with how we are treating our medical personnel in this country. For us as Democratic Party, we want to gravitate from the current situation where you have one doctor to 12,100 patients. That ratio is outrageous. We want to go to a situation where we should go to the recommended World Health Organization ratio of 1 doctor to 1,000 patients. COVID, for us as Democratic Party, we have acknowledged it's not a hoax. So what we will do as DP is to ensure that we sensitize people on this disease, which has first of all affected all sectors of the economy. All sectors. Families are affected. And therefore, the sensitization rate will be very high, so that people can know that COVID can affect the productive levels. And once that is done, then we can go ahead as government to empower those families, those businesses that are affected, like we saw in Ghana, where 1 month was given to people not to pay for electricity bill because government was taking up that bill. That's what we want to do as DP as we fight COVID.
Patriots for Economic Progress.
Thank you, Costa. If the Zambian people make me their president next week, there are two critical issues that I'll deal with in the health sector. Number one is the issue of affordability of health services. And when I say health services, I mean being attended to by medical personnel as well as the medicines, as we've seen the complaint from the gentleman on the screen there. So affordability of medical services. Number two, availability of medical services. How I'll deal with the issue of affordability is that I'll implement a very comprehensive social welfare system which will ensure that those people who can afford 100% of the health services should pay 100% of the cost. Those who can afford half should pay half. Those who cannot afford at all will not pay anything. So you need such a comprehensive social welfare system. In terms of availability of health services, I will ensure that me and my government actually truncate the health system in 3 levels of tertiary, secondary, and primary. Primary health care will be constituted of clinics and primary hospitals, and then you have your provincial hospitals, and of course we'll have the tertiary hospitals, which will be referral hospitals. And suffice to mention that on a lighter note, of course, my wife is a senior doctor, so I'll have access to 24-hour medical advice. And obviously, Wakarawa, if you need medical services after the election, you can be looked at.
Thank you so much. Pak?
We need to understand is that our politics has affected the governance system of this country. You know, we have a report such as the Financial Intelligence Report, the Auditor General's report, which are not acted upon. And in those reports, there are a lot of abuses, you know, in the Ministry of Health. We have seen news in the recent months that, you know, crooks have been supplying expired drugs. And when people go to the hospitals to access drugs, they can't find them. The reason why they can't find them is because people who are connected to the politics, they are making deals with pharmaceutical companies in India to buy expired drugs at a cheap price so that they keep a lot of money in their pockets. And then when our people go to the hospitals, they don't find the drugs. And then there's no action that is taken. So what we need to do is to change our politics so that we stop this issue of appeasement. When people get into power, what they want to do is to give contracts to their friends to supply expired drugs. So we need to fight corruption. And then on the issue of COVID, as PAC, we know that COVID is real, and we need to make sure that, you know, people take it seriously. So once I'm elected president next week, we shall ensure that we attach political will to the acquisition of more vaccines, because vaccine is the only solution. And last but not the least, we need to support the health workers. The health workers have been under-supported under the current government, and we are seeing a lot of health workers dying. So we need to make sure that we support the health workers to make sure that they have all the tools they need to operate in a safe environment.
Narab, your 1 minute 30 seconds.
Yeah, if we look at that picture, I would have loved if we had taken some more pictures from the rural areas. It's worse than that. For my colleagues who have traveled, you will find that you have to walk 30, 40 kilometers to take a pregnant woman to the hospital. Mostly, they lose them. This is a problem of corruption. Corruption is #1 problem. #2, if we have to sort that problem out, that's where we are saying ourselves, we are going to pick winners. We are going to create millionaires in all the 116 districts. And those people who are going to make their companies become big there, they will be able to put infrastructure, social institutions that are going to support the people that are living there. Without that, it will not work at all. We have a problem in this country in that we do a lot of politics, we talk a lot of things, but all of us, if you see all of us, we do plead. We are going to give you health education. We are going to give you a priceless education. We are going to give you a health, and so on and so on. But there is no practical action that we are talking about. For is every district, 116 districts, must be self-reliant in all the social services, in every production that we are talking about.
Thank you so much. MMD.
My fellow countrymen, I'm running for the office of president because running a government is not child play. We can promise anything we want to the Zambian people, and they have been promised before. In the case of health, the New Hope government, under my leadership, is going to ensure that we focus on public health so that we reduce pressure on the health facilities in our country. What do I mean? At the beginning of my submission, I said the problem of our country and the problem of our economy, or anything that we are looking at tonight, is the lack of order in our nation. We have refused to put systems in place that can safeguard us as we move forward. I'll give an example. You go to town in Cairo Road, and you find people selling anything from fish and anything on the street, and you ask them, when the call of nature comes to you, which toilet do you use? They don't have a toilet. They spit anywhere they are cooking food. There is no social order in the country. And it's those problems that place so much burden on the health sector. We need to deal with that issue in order to make sure that our work with the hospitals is now being rewarded, that we can make sure that doctors have the medicines, that hospitals are being built. But the bigger problem is that we need to avoid. And when we come to COVID-19, if you could just wait a second, when you come to COVID-19, as my colleagues have said, we all acknowledge, but we need a multi-sectoral approach where good living systems are put in place. If those who want to do vaccines can do vaccines, but it's going to be everything put together in order to fight and combat COVID-19.
Candidates, as per the rules said, thank you so much. You've all had your 1 minute and 30 seconds. Again, by show of hands, we'll allow for rebuttals and additions on the sector. I want us to particularly, so we'll start with the PEP, particularly the issue of COVID. We describe it as a new norm and a problem really that is not going away. You hear of a second wave, you think it's over, you're going to a fourth wave. The economy, schools, livelihood is affected. So Zambians want to understand, do we continue begging for vaccines? What are we doing in terms of the practicality Narep spoke about, the innovation? Do we have homegrown solutions to COVID? Pep, let's start.
Thank you, Costa. Our view is that, first of all, apart from the issue of COVID, of course, I want to add two critical reforms that we introduce in the health sector once elected into office. But I'll deal with the issue of COVID first. Our view is that the issue of COVID is not something that should be worrying us the way it worried us 2 years ago, because we have the vaccines. And we have seen countries that have implemented vaccines that they are living relatively normal lives. We saw the way people were packed at Wembley Stadium in the UK during that important match. And so this is an issue that can be resolved. And I want to emphasize, Costa, as well as the Zambian people out there, that it's more expensive to treat a COVID-19 patient than it is to buy a vaccine and prevent that disease from taking place. So government is basically wasting money by treating people at Revi, Manawasa and Mainasoko instead of procuring vaccines to help prevent people from getting sick from COVID.
Let's move to MMD. Pep says we have the vaccines, but MMD, we are literally begging for these vaccines. Even the schedule of when one gets the second or first dose is determined by those who are feeling pity for us.
It is important, fellow countrymen, that if you are going to be a sovereign state, you cannot be waiting and depending on others to help your status. Like we said in the beginning, we have to find homegrown solutions to the problems that we are facing. Vaccines are not the only answer to solving the problem of this issue that we have before us. My colleague here from New Heritage Party said it very well. Said, lifestyle, that we insist that if people can have a certain lifestyle, and Africa is better off than many other countries. We have got organic foods, that if we could promote some of this good living, we can actually raise our immunity and ensure that our people are healthier than others. But this thing of just waiting for vaccines from the United States, because the United States cannot use them, because they have not verified them fit for their people, then throw them to us, and then we take them, and without asking questions, I think it's a dangerous way to live.
New Heritage Party, then we'll come to Narep and Park. The key issue for Zambians is we seem to be lost, and we are very reactive rather than being proactive. Other countries have done that. Stimulus packages, which vaccines to take, whether it's herbal or conventional, and how they will roll it out. But we are only being very reactive. Sometimes we lock down, but open bars and so on. So we even here tonight, we're not hearing proactivity in terms of when I'm elected, this is what will happen. New Heritage.
The issue you raise is very pertinent in that we don't seem to have inquiring minds. We always seem to wait. We want to cut and paste and take solutions that are not really who we are. So we need to ask ourselves, where are our scientists who can look at these things and say, yes, this is the route that we should go? Now, we are saying that about the scientists, but the environment in which Zambians are able to express themselves and become who they are. That is what is lacking, and the leadership that will help to provide that very leadership of saying, look, you scientists should be guiding us. So when the West tells us this is what we ought to do, what are you saying to us as Zambians? Is this what we ought to do? Because it's not everyone who believes that vaccines are the answer.
Do you believe they are the answer?
Not for me.
Oh, Nara, then we'll come to PAC and DP.
Yes,
It was a show of hands.
I started by asking the questions, what is ours? Do we have drugs in our country? And if we have, who is the owner? It's a foreigner. We don't have any elite school. The elite schools, they are supposed to start from grade 1, where we know this person is going to be a doctor, this person is going to be a politician. Until up there, we don't have research centers. All that we do is to receive and complain. And we don't have any leadership. The leadership must make those policies that will stimulate innovation, stimulate creativity. It's the innovation and creativity that make prosperous countries. If you see every country, if you look at Taiwan, Taiwan is just a stone and salt water. What have they done? Innovation. Look at Israel. It's innovation. They have nothing. But they are much more ahead. Look at Singapore. They have nothing other than salty water. But because of innovation and creativity, this country has got no innovation, no creativity. And you think that you can make it? You can talk and talk and talk until Christmas comes. So, it will not work at all.
So, PAC, how do you react to that? Without innovation, which would not happen overnight, are we all going to die with COVID?
First of all, I
approach?
think we need to be realistic about COVID. We need short-term solutions. We can talk about behavioral change. We can talk about not worrying because there's a vaccine. I think what we need first is to sort out the problem, because what's happening today, we are losing people every day. And we are losing skills every day. So what is the current solution? For us as PAC, we believe the vaccine is important. You know, we need to learn from what's happening around the world. We need to learn from what's happening around the world. What is happening? What's happening around the world is that the countries are coming back to normal because of vaccines. So why should we ignore the issue of vaccines? So that is number one. When I'm elected president next week, we are going to make sure that we prioritize the acquisition of vaccines. In as much as we need to invest in the health sector, we need to get ventilators, we need to get, all the equipment that they need to fight this disease. And we need to worry about it for the short time to come.
DP, you were complaining. This was a rebuttal session. If you've got anything to wind up on this session.
I didn't complain, Costa. I didn't complain. I thought you were being chronological. You were following.
It's a rebuttal session, President Kalaba. So your 1 minute, quickly.
I think for me, all this that we are discussing here boils down to one thing. It's about sensitization. Are you aware, Costa, that today you have people who don't even know when they get the first jab and when they should get the second jab? People now are getting both jabs the same day. He goes to China, they jab him, and he rushes to UTH, they go and jab him, and he's boasting in front of his friends that me, I have managed to get the 2 jabs in the same day instead of the 10 weeks. Why is it like that? It's because of sensitization, and we in the DP believe that while you are talking about innovation here, vaccines there, all these, there is always an opportunity and a solution to many issues. But at the end of the day, citizens need to be aware of the disease before them, know how they can live, and as some of my colleagues here have elucidated, what should be done is that you tell citizens there is this path, there is that path, and the DP is very clear about it. There is no only single solution to this that can bring down the COVID pandemic. It's about sensitization, education, to tell people the lifestyle that we are leading, how we are interacting with others. The moment she said she had COVID, you saw I even moved away from her, because that is part of the lifestyle that we should be leading.
30 seconds on this round and we wrap up with Heritage Party. 30 seconds.
About the vaccine, are we aware that in Israel, between June and July, they had about 800 new cases? Of those, 600 and something had been fully vaccinated. 200 and something new cases had not been vaccinated. In the UK, it's 60% fully vaccinated. It shouldn't be a debate about the vaccine. I agree, there are more ways to dealing with this than simply the vaccine.
Thank you so much. Candidates, We've hit the 1 hour mark from the time we started. That symbolizes that we're halfway into this debate. Thank you so much for braving the standing. We've got the next 1 hour to go. The next sector, remember obviously for those joining us online, is that it's hashtag the Zambian vote. Keep those comments and reactions coming. The next sector, candidates, looks at the social sector, and that is our third one. And on this particular one, Zambia's social sectors of education, health, safe and clean drinking water, among others, have been affected by inadequate funding. This time around, we pick voices of children, the future of this country. And this is what they have to say to you, the presidential aspirants.
The 2021 national budget allocated more money to debt repayment than combined allocation to child-friendly sectors such as education, health and social protection. The national under-5 stunting rate stands at 35%, which is one of the highest in the entire world.
The laws to protect children are weak. It has been 12 years since the comprehensive review of the child-related legislation began, and the Children's Code Bill remains a draft to this day.
42.8% of girls between the ages of 13 and 17 report experiencing one or more forms of violence. 58% of cases happen in their own homes. In addition, 31% of girls get married by the age of 18, and the Anti-GBV Act of 2011 is due for review.
Over 800,000 school-age children, even without COVID-19 closures, are out of school.
Those are the voices of children, and apologies candidates that the volume there was a bit low, but basically statistics there around, allocation to education for the children, aspects of child abuse, and obviously issues surrounding children. But before I get you to answer these questions, allow me also to add these statistics from WaterAid Zambia. Now, at the 11th AU Summit in 2008, Zambia was one out of 32 countries that committed to the Etiquette Declaration to allocate a minimum of 0.5% of their GDP to water, sanitation and hygiene. However, the budget allocations to WASH sector have been minimal, averaging only from 1 to 3% as a share of that GDP in the last 10 years. Candidates, your question then is, please elaborate on how you improve the situation in the WASH sector to ring-fence only what should be used in terms of the given resource constraints that we have. Are we able to achieve this? Remember, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. This time we start with the People's Alliance for Change.
I think we've heard this saying that water is life, and access to water to our people is very critical. But we have seen that there hasn't been much investment, in the WASH sector. We have seen the careless degazetting of land in areas which has water reservoirs, and that has also affected the quality of water, that our people access. So as PAC, I think the issues of water is connected to the environment. I'm not sure if we'll talk about that later. If we can stop the careless degazetting of land where there's water reservoirs, and then a lot of our people can access clean water. But we also need to ensure that we invest in this sector. We need to ensure that we put adequate investment in this sector. In this country, we $2 million. If we had invested in boreholes, we would have drilled over 30,000 boreholes. So as PAC, we are committed to ensuring that there's access to water. There's clean water for that matter, and that can only happen if we invest adequately in that sector. Thank you.
Narek, the plight of children vis-a-vis issues of the social sectors, water, health and so on. Your 1 minute, 30 seconds.
I sometimes don't know what to say about us Zambians, whether we think or we don't. If you look, Zambia has got a lot of water. The rains that were there this year, if we had dams all over, the whole Zambia would have collected or harvested a lot of water. That problem is sorted out. I don't need to spend much more time on that. The problem is that we do not spend time to give a solution to the problem that we have. Education. Education is the key. I am lucky, perhaps 2 or 3 of my colleagues here, that if there was not Dr. Kaunda, we wouldn't be standing here today, because he gave us free education. Now, when we were getting that free education that time, the leadership was there. Definitely, you could interpolate that when it reaches 2020, 2021, we're going to be 20 million. We need to push out the sector. The thinking, the development was stopped. It's like today, we are moving in other things that we'll talk later, perhaps FISIP and things that don't bring us anything, and we stick to them. There is lots of solutions that we can bring to the education sector to make sure that we push it up. Education is everything. Today, when I was growing up, when I reached that stage, we had more educated people than Botswana, Namibia, South Africa put together. Today, we are at least, even Tanzania is overtaking us. What are we doing?
Thank you, Narib. MMD, your 1 minute 30 seconds on the social sectors.
Thank you so much. Fellow countrymen, the issue of the social sector, I'll start with education. We have made a decision as the New Hope Movement for Multi-Party Democracy that the most paid civil servant must be the teacher. Because outside proper education of our children, everything suffers, including health. The moment a child has the education, hygiene becomes a matter of concern to them. If people are not educated, you find them eating from the streets because they don't care. They don't care about dirt, they don't care about sewer. They can sit there and start to sell next to sewer because of lack of education. I do understand that the social sector is an expensive sector to take because the health sector, education sector takes from the budget all the time. But we are going to move to another level where the health sector and the educational sector are also going to contribute to the budget by being profitable in the manner that they do their work. But the point I'm trying to make is that the teacher under my leadership as president will be one of the most highly paid, because we need to place value on education so that health can also follow suit, that our people can know what hygiene is and how it is important to keep themselves safe, to the extent that when COVID comes, it will find the people that are already educated and they know how to take care of themselves. And that's what governance is all about. That's what I'm going to provide as president of the Republic of Zambia.
The New Heritage Party.
Thank you very much. We believe as the New Heritage Party that all these things are interconnected and intertwined. Our economy performing badly means we have less to put in all of these sectors. The disorder that we have in the country is an indication of the problem we have. So we have unplanned cities, and we have unplanned sewer systems, and that messes up the water. So at the New Heritage, we are saying we must protect our sources of water bodies, both above and below the ground. Recognizing that we have this resource, we must maximize its use and use that resource to generate income to fund other sustainability of our environment. With regard to education, we've recognized that our system was designed in colonial times to produce a workforce for an extractive industry, and we have kept it. So we are saying that, and also it tapers. So you start with a lot of primary school, etc. So we need to change that. We also need to introduce artisan and not too many universities, but colleges. So we want to introduce that as well, and we need to change our system to be geared towards what we are trying to achieve and what we are trying to become.
Thank you. The DP, your 1 minute 30 seconds.
Thank you, Costa. First of all, Costa, I think it is important to recognize that a third of the water bodies in SADC rests right here in Zambia. And yet, like we saw the children there, people are struggling to have water not only in their homes, but also for their daily usage. A country like Lesotho, the only thing that Lesotho exports is water. And yet we have more water. We have water that flows all the way from the Zambezi going into the Indian Ocean. When DP takes over government, it is the intention of the Democratic Party to ensure that we pick best practices from countries like Israel, which is a desert, but it has managed to use water from one single source to provide to all its citizens. We in the DP believe that water is life, and because water is life, a high premium must be put on water. So children like those ones we saw on television should be able to access water easily. And it is the inescapable responsibility of government to provide water to every citizen regardless of where they are.
Thank you so much. PEP?
Thank you, Costa. As Patriots for Economic Progress, we have very specific policy reforms for each and every sector. And so when it comes to social sectors, such as education, for example, we have about 10 specific reforms, but I will dwell on just 3 of those. The first key issue that we address in the education sector is the relevance of our education to the needs of the industry, because there is a huge gap between our education and what the industry wants. I'll give you a simple example. If you look at one of the most skills on demand at the moment, it is the cell phone repair skill. There are a lot of cell phones around town, a lot of cell phones around the country, but you'll find that there is no education college in this country which offers a training in cell phone repair. So it just shows you how disjointed our education system is to the needs of the economy, to the needs of industry. Secondly, in terms of education, we are going to address the issue of affordability. And when you talk about the issue of affordability, we are going to implement a very detailed social welfare system so that those who come from well-to-do families and can afford to pay tuition fees, can afford to pay school fees, should pay 100% of the school fees. Those who come from medium-level families and can afford to pay half, should pay half. Those who come from underprivileged families and cannot afford should be assisted by the state to pay their school fees.
Thank you. As guided in the rules, we've now had the 1 minute 30 seconds on that segment. As we go into the collective rebuttal system, I know that PAC already has raised their hand. The issue we also need to emphasize on there, PAC, the welfare of the Zambian child. Some in these rural areas like attributed, those of you who visited, early child marriage. A child is not a child in Zambia because they have to mature at an early age, the lack of education. So how, if you're elected president, do you guarantee the social and welfare protection of the Zambian child? In 30 seconds.
What we need, first of all, as PAC, we are committed to reforms once we get into government. I think government systems have operated, using old archaic systems. So reforms is number one. And that includes changing the politics to ensure that people that are appointed to critical positions in government are people that are competent, experienced, and have the passion to serve this country. And that we're going to do. Now, there are simple things that we need to do. The prosperity of the country depends on the prosperity of the citizens. Our plan as PAC is that we want to invest in the agriculture sector heavily. So when we are investing, for example, in Kasenengwa, and we are empowering farmers, we are giving them water so that they should not just focus on rain-fed agriculture, they can also do irrigation, and then they have all year income. We are going to take them out of poverty, because the challenge of all this is poverty as well. Now, the last point is that when we empower people in communities, if you go around the rural areas, you find that there are schools, community schools that are not finished. Now, because people don't have income. So once you empower them, you find that a lot of things can be done by themselves.
We need to be winding you up. Candidates, again, by a show of hands, I'll be coming to Pep. I see your hand there, and MMD. Let's be realistic. If you take over government, you'll be inheriting a 2021 budget that has already been passed. And this budget speaks to 90% on debt repayment and paying civil servants emoluments. You have below 10% to push into the social sectors. Some of you are talking about marrying education to skills development and so on. How realistic are these things in the immediate term? Pep.
Thank you, Costa. As the nation might be aware, as Patriots for Economic Progress, we are the only political party in this country that is able to develop and present alternative national budgets. And so, if the Zambian people are gracious enough to make me their president next week, I will not need to scratch my head in terms of how we are going to implement the rest of the national budget, because we already have an alternative national budget which will carry forward from where the Patriotic Front government would have ended. Coming to the issue of allocation of resources to social welfare, there is one big problem that has been there in the past couple of years, not only by the PF government, but even by other successive governments in the past, including the MMD government. And that problem is that in an effort to assist our people, I think there is no question that our people need to be assisted, but in an effort to assist our people, we dwell so much on the issue of handouts. And those handouts manifest themselves in terms of social cash transfer, in terms of farmer input support program. What we must be doing is to empower our citizens by giving them small loans so that they can be able to start a business and be able to pay slowly, and that money operates as a revolving fund to assist other citizens.
MMD, do you agree with that? I mean, we've tried loans, citizens' economic empowerment. Where has this taken, the country? But we need to stick to the social sectors. Right now, the budget stick to Abuja declaration. We don't speak to the Maputo declaration in our budget. So, how are you going to do this?
First of all, the budget has already been stipulated by the Patriotic Front for 2021. So between now and September, we are going to have to deal with what we already have. But the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy has run this country for 20 years. In terms of understanding what works and what doesn't work, we do understand that. So going back to the social sector, the only way we can help the girl child, again I'm going back to that, is to empower our families at the household level. The only way to do that is what the MMD believes is the answer to the growth of the economy. You have to go back to ensuring that you deal with the small-scale farmers, medium-scale farmers, and empower them to be able to produce and feed their families and send their families to school. If our homes, household economy is bad, our children are going to continue looking there they are looking. So I want to state here that it is important as we vote this coming week that we understand that there will be a lot of people going there with experiments and rhetoric of what they can do. But there comes a time when we realize that under the MMD, the economy of this country became an economy that was talked about globally. And I was vice president at the time that was achieved under Mwanawasa. And we are ready to achieve that again to ensure that people have money truly in their pockets, not by rhetoric.
Let's go to Narep and then we'll end with the DP in this session.
I disagree with my fellow Dr. Mumba. The people who started wrecking up this country, destroying this country, is MMD. And the EPF just continued. If we had industries here, they destroyed everything. And now today, when I sit here, I'm listening to that, I don't know, I shake my head and my heart pumps. Because what they benefited, the money that they are talking about, was debt relief. We went on HIPIC program to make sure that all debt was brought down. Then they came and took it up and started using the money. They destroyed everything that was done by Kaunda. Let me finish. I want to talk about my point now. You see, in this country, if we are going to sort out the problems of this country, we need to understand where the problems are coming from. And the problems are coming from the Constitution. In the sense that once a president is put there, he's got too many powers. He thinks he can control everything. He thinks he knows the economy. He thinks he knows everything. That is a problem.
Thank you so much, Narep. GP, I know you want to speak. MMD has been accused of destroying. Can we give them a chance to rebuttal? Then we'll end with you.
I think that my colleague must understand that to get debt relief demanded fiscal discipline by the movement for multi-party democracy. We made sure that we reduced government expenditure so that the international community can have confidence and faith in Zambia. What we are looking for under my leadership, we need a name. That's why when the PF came and took over power, they found a good name for Zambia globally, internationally. They could go and borrow. They started to borrow at night and during the day because our work and our name was bankable. You could not reach the hippie completion point without demonstrating that you are a person that is committed to transparency.
That is a rebuttal. You were entitled to answer and respond to narrative. DP, you've been shaking your head. You don't agree with what the others are saying?
Not quite. I think it's the question that you posed, Costa, which is very fundamental. The question you said was, all these things we are saying, 90% of the revenue that Zambia is raising is going into debt repayment, and only 10% is finding itself in social sectors. How are we going to reverse the trend and change the conversation? I think that should be the point of departure. For us as Democratic Party, what we have said is, first of all, it is our one area where myself and Dr. Momba will agree is that it is leadership. Leadership is everything in the governance architecture. If you have a leader who understands the scope of issues, everything just begins trickling down. And for us in the DP, that is what we are providing to this country. It's a strict leadership, a serious leadership that can take us to the next trajectory. We are talking about the glorious past. I hear the glorious past. I hear those of you who are lucky in Dr. Kaunda's time. It is all because of leadership, prudence in the leadership. So for us as DP, we have already structured how we are going to deal with the debt that this country has.
And who promises that leadership here?
It's me here. I'm the only one doing that here. And now listen, Costa, let me just finish my point. The point I was trying to drive home is that there's a lot of financial seepages in the various sectors of this country that requires an open eye. There is a lot. And for me as Harry Kalaba, as you know, Costa, I even resigned my position as foreign minister on the strength of abuse of office, misuse of resources, and I realized that monies which were supposed to have been meant for the vulnerable was not going there. It starts there first, and then it trickles down.
Thank you so much, candidates. We've wrapped up our third sector and thematic area of discussion on social sectors. We've had our rebuttals and our 1 minute 30 seconds submissions. Viewers and listeners all across the country, the millions tuned in. Remember, the hashtag is the Zambian Vote. Thank you so much for being part of this very, very important democratic discussion. Our fourth and final thematic area of discussion looks at the rule of law and governance. Over the years, there is perception amongst prominent observers, civil society organizations, the media, and the general citizenry that the civil space and the rights of citizens have been compromised owing to some arguably retrogressive laws such as the Public Order Act. Civil society has complained of limited freedom of expression. You, politicians, have complained over the lack of being able to mobilize, the freedom to assemble, the freedom of expression. The country has also got gaps in its constitution. Article 52(6) of now bringing problems where if one resigns, you need to go back to or file in for nominations. How do you intend, candidates, on upholding the rule of law, instituting legal reforms, respect and protection of human rights, while observing separation of powers? I'll ask that again. How, if elected into government, do you intend on upholding the rule of law, instituting reforms, respect and protection of human rights while observing separation of powers? DP, you go first on this one with 1 minute and 30 seconds.
First of all, thank you so much, Costa. First of all, I want to agree with what you have said. Indeed, the political space has been shrinking, even as we do our politics every day. And as we go towards the elections, I think we have seen that we have the military that has been deployed in the streets of across Zambia, and the perception or the message we are being told is because they need to maintain peace and order. I have been tear-gassed before myself. I mean, last week I was tear-gassed in an election campaign before. Before we started even doing this debate, I was discussing with President Kateka here, and we were saying, and Dr. Mumba, we are saying this is a very unique election that we are having. It's like we are not even in an election. Our rights, our spaces have all been suppressed, and it's been difficult to reach there. And thanks to you and your initiative of even providing a platform like this, because we are able to reach the people out there. DP in government believes that you cannot have a government which negates human rights. Human rights are an essential component embedded in the Bill of Rights, and therefore, for us as Democratic Party, we will ensure that citizens are given space to participate in the affairs of their country without let or hindrance.
The New Heritage Party rather, what is your take on this matter? Citizens out there feel that politicians are merely the same. We keep on changing to the same people, and some may not even want to vote. What is your take? Why with these old laws, new leaders, you all become power corrupt?
Yes, I think that the model of politics that we are practicing is not really working for us. I would love to go into more detail, but it's more divisive and everything. However, when we look at the public, they have been let down so many times because somebody is very user-friendly before they go in, and once they go in, they change and they become something else. We've had a president before who said the Public Order Act is a bad thing, but when he got into power, he said, oh, this is a good law. We do need these things, and I'll marry that with the Constitution, which has got lacunae, in Zambia, lacunas. And what has been the concern of citizens and opposition political parties is that these things are always initiated by the party in government in terms of when we want to review them. So Heritage in Power does not intend to initiate this. We feel that we need an independent, non-partisan group, a small group, to look at all of these things so that the hand of the politician is not actually in there.
Thank you. The MMD.
Yes, first of all, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy understands the importance of political space for each one. Nevers Mumba, as president, under the New Hope Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, will promise the Zambian people that the kind of governance where the space for political participation has been reduced will be expanded. Every Zambian has a right to speak, to affiliate, and to belong to any grouping of his choice. The way we are going into this election is like we are a country that has never known democracy. I am of the view that a president must be known well before you vote for them. And the problem we have in Zambia is that we refuse to look and interrogate the lives of those who seek to lead us. We refuse to ask questions about their history. Possibly the Bible says, in fact, you shall know them by their fruit. Why? If you ignore their fruit, they will continue to reduce the democratic space and suppress you. I am of the view that a politician who tries to block others from expressing their political views and also their democratic rights is a small-minded, frightened politician who has no ideas to give to the Zambian people and probably has no program. So he protects his ignorance and his smallness by stopping others from participating. The best way to govern a country is to let the people be innovative and think freely. I thank you.
Baron.
The first thing that we're going to do ourselves the first year is to make sure that the Constitution and the Balose problem, they are sorted out. If you sort out the Constitution, you bring the judicial system under private committee, that the judicial system is run by the private committee who are going to be the ones to employ the Chief Justice, to employ the judges. Then you have removed a huge amount of powers from the president, because the president does use the judicial system to vindicate others. He uses the other arms that he has to vindicate others. The separation of powers between the legislature, judicial, and the executive must be observed by making sure that the president's power are reduced to minimized to his executive side. That is number one that we are going to do. The number two that we are going to look at is now, how do you work with independent independent agents, agents that are running, that you use to run the government. What we're having today is that the president has got all his fingers in all the agents. As we are here, if he wants, he can command the policeman to come here and disrupt her. That shouldn't be. If you sort out the constitution, you will limit him to his state house. All of us here, we should agree that once you go on there, sort out this problem, other than to start enjoying this. You sit there and you leave it because it benefits you.
Thank you so much. Pak?
I think what we need to understand is that we need a leadership, but we also need a leadership that understands things. And what a leadership needs to understand is basic things such as democracy. You know, the idea of democracy is about sharing ideas. And when you see on this platform that some people don't respect this platform, then that is also the first indication, you know, of people who don't respect democracy. Do we need to change our politics? Our politics of of ideas and solutions. And if we have leaders that respect ideas and solutions, they'll be here. It's not just about running around with cadres in the streets. That's what politics is about. It's about talking, telling the Zambian people. Now, if you have a leader that does not understand democracy, you also find the fact that they don't understand that when they're shrinking on the opposition's rights, they're also shrinking on the human rights of the individual. Because how do people make decisions without listening to us? We need to reach out to them. Now you have people in government that don't want us to reach out to the people. They don't understand that they're stamping on the rights of the people that are supposed to be voting on the 12th of August. We also need to remove political interference in the running of various key institutions such as the police. These institutions have been infiltrated by political interference. Police are not able to operate freely because of politicians that are greedy, politicians that don't have ideas. The only idea they have is to stop people with ideas to talk to the majority of the people. As PAC government, we shall ensure that we work hard and implement our ideas so that we don't have to worry about who is sharing our ideas, because our ideas will be the best.
Candidates, you've all had a bite at your 1 minute 30. You have not. Sorry for that.
Okay.
PEP.
Thank you. As Patriots for economic progress, we are cognizant of the fact that our constitution is deficient in a lot of areas, and there are a lot of areas that require reform. However, we have narrowed the reforms that we are going to implement into two specific categories. The first key category of reforms on the constitution that we are going to implement is changing Zambia from the current system of governance, which is the first past the post majoritarian system, to a proportional representation parliamentary system. Now, there are several benefits that accrue to a system similar to South Africa. For starters, if we had a proportional representation system, each one of us here, after next week, we would have members of parliament. But as things stand, it might only be the Patriots for economic progress which might have members of parliament. The second key reform that we are going to implement in terms of constitutional reforms is changing Zambia from the current system of governance to a federal system where each and every province will have its own government and will have its own governor and will collect certain types of taxes such as pay as you earn, so that each province, each region can be responsible for their own development.
Thank you so much. And apologies that we're almost skipping you, PEP, but like I said earlier, the 1 minute 30-second contributions have been made. We have a couple of minutes in which to emphasize, amplify and rebuttal. But just a few things that I'd want candidates to talk to the Zambians tonight. Number one, the ugly head of tribal politics and tribalism is coming onto the fore of our nation. The young generation knows no tribe because they go to schools, they intermarry, but politics now are based on tribal lines. That's number one. Number two, each one of you seem to agree that the current constitution gives so much power to one office or individual. Some of the parties here, and you as individuals, have participated in many constitutional reforms, the MMD yourself and the recently held NDF. And you've contributed to these laws which you're saying today are bad. The same constitution that we have has been copied by other African countries that really implemented better. South Africa and the Office of the Public Protector, those things were copied from Zambia's law statutes. So why should the Zambians tonight believe you tonight that when you speak, you will go and do what you're saying and not exactly what you have done in the past?
Thank you very much, Acosta. First of all, talking about tribalism, I think we in the Democratic Party, I think we are the only political party in this country that has said we are going to criminalize tribalism. Because we know what happened in Rwanda, we know what is happening in the Central African Republic. We also know that to some very large extent, the problems in Darfur gravitate around tribal politics. In this country, when you look even at the voting pattern, there was a commission that was established in this country to look at the voting patterns. And clearly Zambia has been cut into half. This region is supporting this region, and that region is supporting that region. That is why in the DP, we have said we don't even have a stronghold. Our stronghold is Zambia. That's why you see the other week I was in Eastern Province, the other week I was in Southern Province. We are going everywhere, all across the country, because I will be president, colleagues. Mark my words, I'll be president next week for all of you here. And why? Because you are all Zambian citizens earmarked to contribute to the economic emancipation of this country. So under the DP leadership, you are guaranteed that regardless of where you come from, you will be allowed to participate whether in the civil service or in any economic field of our country.
Thank you. PEP, then we'll come to Narep and MMD.
Thank you, Costa. So Costa, when you look at the two issues that you have raised, the issue of tribalism and the issue of too much powers vested in the office of Republican president, you will realize that those two issues are actually resolved in our two critical constitutional reforms of introducing a proportional representation parliamentary system of government, as well as having a federal system of government. The federal system of government addresses the issue of regionalism and tribalism. Because when you look at those two issues of regionalism and tribalism, the key issues there are that resources are allocated to certain regions more than other regions. So if each region is responsible for their own development, responsible for collecting their own tax, responsible for their own police force to enforce the rule of law, then the issues of tribalism will not arise. The issues of regionalism will not arise. Similarly, the issue of too much power vested in a Republican president will be resolved by a proportional representation system of government similar to South Africa, because when a president errs or misbehaves, they can be recalled by their political party as opposed to waiting for 5 years for them to be voted out of office.
Thank you. Nara.
I think it's a mindset and inferior complex of the politicians. Today,
are you not a politician yourself?
Well, I am. I'm not excluding myself. But let me say this. Today, if I'm from East, I want to look for my running mate. So you can't pick from the East. You have to pick from the North or South. If you're from South, you can't pick from there. For me, that is inferior complex. We are looking for Zambians who can deliver. We are not looking for a tribal. If the first person is a Tonga, second Tonga, third person, they are the best, let them. They are the best Zambians. We are saying in NAREP ourselves, when we take over, when you are applying for a job, remove your village, remove your surname. When you are selected for the job because it's on merit, you can add back those things. And the problem that we are having in this country is that we politicians, we want to gain mileage through this. We didn't see it. We didn't see it in Kaunda days. Our children are not seeing it, but we are corrupt in the head.
Back.
I think the idea of tribalism really is the idea of people who don't have brains. It's the idea of people who don't have ideas. They don't have something to tell the people. That's why they're going to tell them, say, this one is bad. Now, if you've got ideas, I mean, you know how to empower people. You know how you're going to redistribute the land. You know how you're going to create jobs. Why should you waste your time talking about tribalism? You know, and it doesn't exist to some of us. I'm half Tonga, I'm half Easterner. That's how it works. You know, so I agree. I mean, we need to criminalize, you know, some of these things like tribalism so that, you know, we can clean up our politics. Yes, And also, what we need to do is that when we talk about constitutional reforms, we need to have the right parliament and the right leaders. If we have the wrong leaders, we're going to have another NDF where people want to put things in the constitution that benefits them. But we need to have people who want to create a constitution that will stand the test of time. And that is our commitment as the People's Alliance for Change Park.
New Heritage, and finally, MMD.
Thank you very much. This issue of tribalism should really be a mute subject, because we have so many intermarriages in the country and it is used by politicians. However, I would like to flip it on its head. I think that we need to be very careful with how we deal with it, because what is happening now is it's like people now are forced to be ashamed of who they are. So instead of dealing with it the way we are dealing with it, I think we should begin to celebrate the strengths of the tribes that in Zambia. You know, you have Lozis. I've got some Lozis in my team, very intelligent people. So I celebrate that. You look at Bembas, crafty people, celebrate that. I'm Bemba, so I can afford to say that. So let's celebrate who we are. I shouldn't feel ashamed to say I'm Bemba. No one should feel ashamed to say they are Tonga. So let's celebrate each other rather than suppressing who we are.
MMD?
In supporting my dear sister, the President of New Heritage, may I say that what is prevailing in the country today is a very deplorable thing, and it's not going to change until you get a president who can pull the South, the North, and bring Zambia together, pulls West and East and bring Zambia together. The status quo that exists today about tribalism in this country, I want to assure the Zambian people, those political parties that are talking tribe and violence, they enjoy it. It's what helps their political mileage. So when we talk about, and they talk about no violence, no tribalism, they are lying. Because if they meant it, they would have told their cadres to stop it. Now, because they are getting political mileage from it, they are doing it. The only way to solve that problem, I don't care how powerful they may be, remove them and get leaders so that a Christian nation can end up with a Christian leader who understands that every Zambian is created in the image of God and expects to be looked after like anybody else.
Thank you so much. Candidates, viewers and listeners out there, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the 4 thematic areas of our debate tonight. Thank you so much for your contribution and your critical points regards the rule of law and governance, issues around the social sectors, as well as health and COVID-19, and earlier on, mining and the economy. We get into our final session we call the final appeal. Each one of you will be given 1 minute and 25 seconds in which to face the Zambians via a camera and to speak through radio tonight as to why one of those, or the 7 million Zambian voters who will be waking up on August 12 and have a difficult choice of choosing among 16 hopefuls who've put themselves. All of you tonight say, you are the best for Zambia. Why should this woman called Zambia, or man called Zambia, marry you? We start with MMD and Dr. Nervous Mumba. Into that camera, your 1 minute and 25 seconds starts now.
My name is Nervous Mumba, and I'm running for president. The reason I'm running for president is because Zambians can try. 4 years I've served the Zambian people in the public sector. As a pastor for 44 years. As a political leader for 24 years. As a diplomat, I've served my country honorably. And because of this experience, I would like to use it and ensure that our country can become the #1 country on the continent. I want to tell the Zambian people that we are on a wrong path. The path we have taken will never bring prosperity to our country. And if we continue doing the same thing over and over again, the international community is going to accuse us of being lunatics. I think time to change direction has come. Not just to cover up what's going on and paint it another color. It was green, you want to paint it red, you want to paint it another color. We need to change direction. And how do we change direction? We need to bring order back in this country. Order in the social sector of our country. Order in the political sector of our country. Order in the economic sector of our country, so that we can become a transparent country. We can become a country that respects the rule of law, which has been thrown out through the window. I ask for your vote, and I would like you to vote for Nevas Mumba as your next president.
New Heritage Party, into that same camera, your 1 minute 25 seconds.
Thank you so much. Chishala Kateka, New Heritage Party. I would like to ask for your vote because of what we are saying. We are looking at the heritage that we are going to leave our children and our children's children, and ask ourselves, what sort of a Zambia are we going to live if we continue along the same trajectory? We have introduced practices in this country that are illegal, unlawful, and are costing the Zambians a lot. For example, the issue of cadres. At the New Heritage Party, we are saying we do not want political cadres to put us into power. We want the ordinary citizens. This political violence that you are seeing, it's really a turf war. It's a financial war. It's not a political war. We need to understand that they are fighting for the markets, they are fighting for the bus stations, they are fighting for easy income and taxed income. And we need to understand that as Zambians, any party that we allow to go into power that is doing that is going to take us back. So these are practices that we need to get rid of. We are talking about introducing a new breed of leaders, not the same old type of people who have not been serving the people. They get into government and they think it's time to play games, but it is time to serve the Zambian people. Thank you very much. Please vote for us.
DP, into that same camera, your 1 minute 25 seconds.
My name is Harry Kalaba. I am the president of the Democratic Party and your candidate next week's elections. We in the Democratic Party are saying what Zambia requires now is freshness. What Zambia requires is to look out for strengths in others instead of weaknesses. What we in Zambia are saying is that what brings us together as a people is much more than what divides us, and that our strengths outweigh our weaknesses. We have an opportunity to put an end to cadreism. We have an opportunity to allow cadres to go where they belong. This is our moment as a country, and we in the DP are saying we need order to reign in this country. We need a leadership that is going to hear us. We need a leadership that will not lecture to us. We need a leadership that will stand up for our needs and not their own needs. This is your moment, Zambia. And life and death basically is in your hands on the 12th of August. If you want life, you are going to vote for the Democratic Party. If you want to perish, you vote for all these other political parties. This is your opportunity as a country to take yourselves to the next paradigm. On the 12th of August, vote Harry Kalaba and all the DP candidates on the key. God bless you.
Patriots for Economic Progress, into that camera.
My name is Sean Enoch Tembo, or Set in short, and I'm standing for President of the Republic of Zambia. As Patriots for Economic Progress, we believe that there are three key issues of why Zambia has not been able to develop properly since independence in 1964. And those three key issues are: number one, incompetence in the management of public affairs by government officials, because people are appointed on patronage as opposed to competence. A Sean Tembo presidency will change that. Number two, high levels of corruption, because the people who are elected into public office have got no integrity. They put their pockets and their stomachs before the interests of the Zambian people. A Sean Tembo presidency will change that. Number three, lack of proper transition from one government to the other. We have a tendency in this country to do politics of bitterness, where when you are elected into office, your objective is to erase the legacy of the previous government. Similarly to what happened in 1991 when MMD came into office and they erased the legacy of the UNIP government by selling all the companies.
25 seconds is up. You were supposed to make your final appeal.
It's too short, Costa. It's too
yes, you're supposed to make, like others have done, appeal to the voters. That's the time given. Pak, you're 1 minute, 25 seconds into this camera.
My name is Anford Malibanda. I'm the presidential candidate standing on the People's Alliance for Change Park. I would like to ask you to vote for me as president and also all our candidates across the country. We, as the People's Alliance for Change Park, we have demonstrated commitment in the last 5 years, starting from the 2016 general elections. We formed the party on January 10th, 2016, and within 7 months, I stood for president and came out number 4. From then onwards, we have participated in elections across the country. Hence, going into this election, we are one of the most committed political parties, and we are number 3 by election results. We are asking for your vote on 12th of August because Zambia deserves a new start. It deserves a new leadership, a new vision, energetic leaders, new generation leaders with ideas. Because what we want to do for this country is to ensure that land is equally distributed, to ensure that empowerment is accessed by all, to ensure that there are policies that would be created for job creation, to ensure that, we invest heavily in the agricultural sector. We want to ensure that we stabilize the mining sector and the business sector. We want to make sure that we prudently manage the debt. And last but not the least, we want to make sure that corruption is punished, not celebrated. That is possible once you vote for the People's Alliance for Change Park on 12th of August 2021. God bless you and God bless the Republic of Zambia.
Finally, we conclude with NAREP.
My name is Stephen Nyirenda. We believe in the national agenda. Zambia is for Zambians, and only us Zambians will develop this country. I want to tell you the best economies in the world today, which is China, Taiwan, and Singapore. These economies, they have been run by engineers, a set of engineers. I am an engineer. The country like Zambia, it needs building. It needs industrialization. It needs putting things together before you can get lawyers, they start quarreling about it. Before you can get the economists, before you can get all the financiers. It needs building, and we will build this country which is very, very rich. We believe in vision, leadership. We believe in integrity, leadership with integrity, principles, and a sense of sacrifice, which basically Zambian leaders as today have demonstrated they don't have. Zambia is for Zambians. Vote for Stephen Nyirenda. Is going to turn this country within 10 years from the day that we start ruling. Within 10 years, this country will turn upside down, and we will see prosperity. Singapore has done it. Why should we not do it?
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your candidates for tonight. A big round of applause for them. Thank you so much to the candidates. That wraps up our discussion for tonight. We must say and mention once again here that we were expecting to have the Socialist Party, who ran late. They had confirmed they were coming, but they ran late and could not join us on the debate. Equally, we were scheduled to have the Patriotic Front as well as the UPND, who, like I said earlier on, have officially given their media statements as to why they cannot be here tonight. For us, would like to thank our media partners, Radio Phoenix, the Hot Media Group, QFM, Radio Luswepo, Radio Liseli, Breeze FM, Luapula Radio, Radio Mano, Radio Ichengelo, Radio Chikuni, Mosio Tunya Radio, Kokoliko FM, Radio Chikaya, Radio Banguela, KNC Radio, and Kasempa Radio. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in, and thank you to the radio partners for broadcasting this important discussion live. To our TV partners, Diamond TV, Movie TV, Spring TV, CBC TV, KBN, Life TV, Musanza TV in Southern Province, ABN TV, Power TV, Crown TV, Northwest TV, Northwestern Province. We say a big thank you. And finally, to Nkani Online Media, as well as Diamond TV, Facebook, Zambia. Thank you so much equally to our sponsors, BBC Media Action, WaterAid, SACOD, Joining Forces Alliance, Chapter 1 Foundation, and the NGOCC. From us in 2021, ours is to provide a platform. The candidates speak to the 7 million voters. On the 12th of August, you have the power in your hand by utilizing the voter's card to vote on any of the 16 candidates and those that appeared yesterday and tonight, who you believe and feel speaks to your problems and has the solutions and the answers. On behalf of this entire production team from Taj Pamozi in Lusaka, my name is Costa Mwansa. Thank you, candidates. Good night, and we wish Zambia a peaceful election.
Over TV.